great. You look great.
The only important thing to me is, do I look better than Swampy?
Yeah.
It's a tie. It's like, does Phineas look better than Ferb?
It's important to Swampy that I look better than him, too.
Hey guys, so when I was 8 years old, on my second day in LA, I came to the Disney Studios for my first time to talk to some awesome creators, Dan Povenmire and Swampy Marsh. So I am so excited to be back. It's been about 10 years, and in those last 10 years, you guys have accomplished a lot, from Phineas and Ferb to Milo Murphy's Law. So how's the last 10 years been?
Really busy, but a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been full. It's been full of stuff. Phineas became this huge machine of doing Phineas at the same time as we were doing the Phineas DCOM, at the same time we were doing the Take-Twos with Phineas and Ferb. We were doing the Doof's Daily Dirt. We were producing a whole bunch of things.
Now when you say it out loud, I'm exhausted.
I know. I'm exhausted even before I said it out loud.
Yeah, that does sound like a lot.
When I sat down, I was just glad she was here so I could sit down.
So, in my original interview with you guys, you told me that you didn't want to send Phineas and Ferb to school because you didn't want to draw all those desks.
We don't want to draw all those desks.
But now Milo's in school, so how do you explain that?
Well, you know what we did? The only classroom that you ever see the inside of has the flat tables. We said it's going to be a science classroom, so we don't have to do the multi, like all the desks with slightly tilted tops.
Wow.
That's just, it was like we just did flat tables.
They wouldn't have even known.
Yeah,
you gave away your secret.
Yes, so it was just us cheating that out of there.
So how do you think the TV industry has changed since you originally pitched Phineas and Ferb?
Well, it's much easier for us to get another show.
Yeah, it was. It was like, Phineas and Ferb took 13 years to sell, and we sold Milo just right away. So
do you have a lot more say in what you're doing now?
The industry has just become a lot easier. Yeah. I think is what it is.
Well, probably for you guys because you already had a well-established show.
I think that might have had.
Yeah.
That's a little. Yeah.
So the TV industry itself has changed drastically. Just from going from linear TV to DVRs and now streaming, everything, like the whole game has changed. They don't even know how to really measure the success of a show anymore.
Right.
It used to be just ratings. The next day you saw how many people saw it and stuff, and now it's like, well, the next day plus 7, the next day plus 12, plus 24. And it's hard to sort of quantify a lot of the Netflix stuff, a lot of the other things. You can't really tell how many people are watching that unless you work at that place.
Right.
On the upside,
exactly.
Making it is still fun.
Yes.
So that hasn't changed.
That's awesome.
And there's a lot more places to put content, so they need a lot more content. So there's a lot more shows in production now. It's just in general, but animated shows, there's more shows in production now than there've ever been.
So if you're thinking of a career in animation, now's the time.
That was actually my next question. What's your advice for someone looking for a career in animation?
Draw.
Yeah. If you want to draw. The other thing is there's, I always talk about how many other jobs there are that aren't necessarily drawing, that are just as important, that are also creative jobs. My first advice is, if you have a chance or an opportunity, go find out what the jobs are at a studio. Come see if you can arrange a visit. Most guys who work in these studios are pretty easy to get to know, and they're pretty happy to show you what they do. So there's a lot more to do out there than just drawing pictures. But if you like to draw, don't ever let anybody tell you you can't make a living drawing pictures. Little funny pictures like that.
Yes. I just drew this, but they didn't pay me anything for it.
I'm sorry. Well, we're doing promotion.
Yes.
That's our job. So there are a lot of theories online about DOG being a secret agent, and he was kind of shown to be. So who do you think is a better secret agent, Perry or DOG?
There's nobody better than Perry.
Yeah.
I have to say that is the president of the OWCA, the head. I think Agent P is top notch.
But DOG does it without knowing that he's doing it, which is somehow more difficult. I think that he just sort of stumbles around as a dog and somehow still wins. So
he has the opposite of Milo's luck in a way.
yeah, actually, he's 1 for 1.
Yeah, it's true.
You know, Perry's gotten knocked down a couple times, so he doesn't have a perfect record.
Do you think that if Phineas and Ferb had Milo's luck, they would have been able to accomplish everything they were going to do each day?
I think they would have worked their way around it. I think that's sort of what we see in the crossover special is that, okay, now they have to deal with this too, and they figure out a way to overcome it and even use it to their advantage.
Right.
It's a workaround. They found a workaround.
Yes.
Okay, so what gave you the idea to have Doofenschmirtz on Milo Murphy all the time, and will Major Monogram have any chance of moving in?
Oh, absolutely. The thing is, these are really fun characters. They're people that you don't ever want to say goodbye to. They're fun to do. They're fun to voice. They're fun to write for. They're fun to draw.
What's funny is first season on Milo, we were thinking, okay, we're gonna do this big build to this big reveal that it's all connected, and then once we reveal that it's all connected, we'll be able to bring characters like Doofenschmirtz and Monogram and whatever into Milo whenever we want. And the studio will not be the wiser. We'll have fooled them. And then once we revealed that at the end of the first season, and we showed them what we were doing with the crossover special, their only request for second season was, would it be okay with you guys if we sort of made Doofenschmirtz a minor character in in Milo?
That's
if
awesome.
we brought him in as like a regular character, and we were like, we'll
think about it and get back.
Yeah, well, let's think about it. We'd like close the door. It worked.
That's awesome.
So it was fun.
So speaking of the crossover, I did want to ask, since Buford was dancing in the crossover, did Bobby have to model for the animators at all?
Thank heavens, no.
Yeah.
That sounds so fun to watch, though. Why not?
It would have been fun.
You can wear one of
but,
those like green suits.
I think it would have also been sort of scary.
That's the girl way.
Now that you say that, I would love to see Bobby in a green suit dancing.
Yeah,
We should
but
just
Put it in the show.
we should just tell them
Tell
we're
them we
doing
should
it.
get a green suit.
I've got a green screen at home. I can
So
bring it in
great.
and we can say this is what we need you to do for the
And
just
then just film it and put
And
something
then-
weird on it and
Yes.
put it on the internet.
that's
awesome.
That's what we're planning on
If you
doing.
see Bobby, don't tell him we're going to do this.
So Phineas and Ferb are pretty much nice to absolutely everyone, but with Milo, they kind of have to stay away from him. Was it hard to keep Phineas and Ferb's like character integrity and keep him being nice while still having him stay away from Milo?
Well, I think they're the ones that say that, like Candace is more the person who is sort of like, I think we should keep this guy as far away from us as
Right.
possible. And Phineas and Ferb have a little bit of a well, okay, no, he should be part of the team, but we need to like see how this works first. How can we use this? How can we turn this to our advantage? So they're still being nice, but they do recognize that there's a danger there.
So now that Isabella's a little bit older, has she been able to do any voices on the shows yet?
She sang a demo for a pilot, for a Friends pilot. I wrote a theme song for a Friends pilot, and I had her do the demo, and she sounds pretty good. And my youngest, Melissa, did some temp voices for Mike Roth's pilot.
Oh, cool.
That's awesome.
And he liked it, or he's like, hey, if I get a show out of this, I'm going to audition her for something. So we'll see. I've been sort of, letting them dip their toe in the pool a little bit and see what happens.
Right. So your son is away at college right now.
Yeah,
What's it been like having him that far away?
I'm really lonely. Actually, I miss him most when I'm out surfing because he was my surfing buddy. So you sit out in the
Yeah.
water and you think, oh, there's something missing. But he's having a great time. He's thriving. It's only been 6 weeks and he's found all of his people. So we're happy.
He does play a certain cat, though. How does he manage that when he's at school?
We're having to record him remotely. He has to get on a train from his university to go into Edinburgh to one of the recording studios there and do the voice of Brother Bob.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Does he prefer being Danger Doug or Cool Cat?
Oh, I think he likes being Danger Duck.
Really?
Although now that his friends in college have figured out that he does all this other work, he says the first they gave him a bunch of stick for it, but now they're like, it's pretty cool.
That's awesome. Milo's always positive, even though a lot of bad things happen to him in the show. Was this a purpose of messaging that to kids so they knew to be positive in that way.
Oh, absolutely. That was kind of the intent of the show was, we had Phineas who was always positive and everything always went right for him. And that idea was, could you still be completely positive even though everything goes wrong for you?
Right.
And that was the challenge. And that's what we thought was cool about Milo.
Yeah, Phineas is a celebration of positivity in the face of everything going right for you. And so Milo's sort of the same show, but the opposite show at the same time.
Yeah.
It's like positivity in the face of everything going wrong. And that's when the show really gelled. Is that was actually a character I was putting into another pitch, a different pitch entirely. But I always looked at that character and said, I think this character should have his own show. And I brought it into Swampy's office and said, this character from this other pitch, and he's like, yeah, I always felt like that character should have his own show. And I was like, yes.
That's funny.
What should we do? It's like, all I've got written down here next to him is indefatigably positive, right? Indefatigably optimistic. That's what I said.
That's awesome.
And Swampy said, what if he's optimistic in the face of everything constantly going wrong? And it was like, ding, ding, ding. And then we just had the entire concept for the show. 10 minutes later, we had like all these notes. And
Philosophically, we always believed that life is always going to throw stuff at you. And it really comes down to what you do with that. Either it's the reason that life defeats you, or it's the thing that makes life interesting and gives you character and gives you knowledge and all of that. And that's how Milo feels about what his life is.
Right. So has there been any confirmation of a season 3 for Milo yet?
There has not. We're probably waiting till it goes on Disney Plus.
Okay.
And see what happens there. It had really good ratings towards the end, but then they were concentrating on the Phineas movie that we're doing for Disney Plus.
Right. So what can you tell me about that movie?
Well, we're really not supposed to talk about it.
Yeah, Disney would be really upset if we talked about it. But the main story is.
And then she takes it and puts it all the way inside this thing, and then there's people doing this a lot, and then we got this place with this, remember this? Oh, yeah, with this, and then yes, and then we do this 3 times, 4, 5 times, that's fine, yes, but,
and then the credits roll.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you can tell it's going to be pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Exactly. That was so specific, too.
Yeah.
So,
Hopefully Disney won't find out that we
so if Milo comes back, will the pistachions be showing up, or maybe some almonds?
Oh, there are so many other nuts.
There are a lot of different nuts. The reason I chose pistachios was because a friend of mine's son they find out is deathly allergic to specifically pistachios, and I thought that was always a weird specific nut to be, it has no problem with peanuts or walnuts or anything like that. Just pistachios and so I made them the villain of the things.
And you know what's funny? As a kid, when I went to red carpets, Disney almost always had pistachios for a few years. They gave them out at red carpet events. It was really.
I had no idea that was
I just think the character is at Cavendish. It's fun to say pistachios.
Yes.
Awesome.
Really
That's
effective
awesome.
and posh.
Okay, so I gotta admit, I am a huge Meep fan, and I want to know if we'll ever see him again.
We never say never. Like we didn't necessarily think we'd be doing this movie, and then they sort of pull us back in.
Well, you weren't going to make the second episode for Meep, even, right?
It's entire. Yeah, we weren't planning on doing the second one. We weren't planning on doing the third one. Who knows what will happen in the future? I get asked that question a lot. I've been asked that question in the last week.
I'm not the only Meep crazy fan.
I took a trip to Japan with the family last year, and we went and visited the studios there. We could put out a Meep show just for Japan.
Yes. Meep is
really?
They have Meep toys
Japan,
and Meep keychains.
Oh, by moving to Japan.
You should.
Yes.
That's awesome.
It's very cool.
That's really cool.
It's Meet Me in St. Louis, isn't that
Yes,
what it's going to be?
Yes,
So,
that's
yeah.
awesome.
We purposely made another silly trailer for something we weren't planning on making with even more ridiculous.
Well, I was so impressed when I saw the second one. I was like, oh my God, they did it. They put them all together.
That was probably the hardest thing we've ever written, was trying to take a bunch of things that didn't have anything to do with each other that we put together as a silly trailer, and then back engineer them into
But it
a
worked
story.
so perfectly, you got to do it again.
But I felt like it was so much work. I felt like we should put like a little star in the corner every time we hit one of the things that was in the trailer.
That's cool. That's cool. People would buy it on DVD if you released like the special star version.
Yes.
That would be really cool.
That would be
we
cool.
should do that afterwards. We should
Yes.
go back and put one in.
Yes.
That
Ding,
would be cool.
Ding, ding. We should do it for the Disney Plus.
I've heard.
That's cool.
Remember you talked about the Star Wars movie? You wanted somebody to go back in and cut the Phineas and Ferb Star Wars show into the original movie?
Yeah, because I think
some guy says he did it.
Oh my God, that's
Yeah.
Tell
awesome.
him to send us a link because
just
I will
started-
watch it.
I just started talking to him. I told him you have to send it to me.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
That's awesome
Heard it here
because it
first.
would actually work.
I know.
We did it in such a way that you could literally just go from this shot of Luke's looking out of the twin suns, and then pan over and see. If
Yeah.
Apparently, his son did it in
Yeah.
film school, and he's trying to get it to me. So
That's an awesome project to
That's
have.
really awesome.
Are we going to see Vanessa again in any show?
We might see Vanessa.
Interesting.
again.
I always related to Vanessa growing up. She was
We have
always the
seen-
one
We have seen Olivia recently, and Olivia is right now
I know.
in X
In
Factor, the
Really?
Celebrity X Factor in Great Britain, because there she's remembered very fondly for her role in Love Actually, which is a big Christmas movie that they watch every
That's
year.
funny. I just know her as Vanessa and Marceline.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
really
you should,
funny.
Yeah, you should see Love Actually. She sings this Mariah Carey Christmas song at the end.
That's
And
cool.
she was 7 years old with a voice like Mariah Carey.
Wow.
She was amazing.
That's
She's
amazing.
still amazing.
So I did want to ask if diversity played a big part in what characters you chose for Milo Murphy.
You know, there was talk early on about diversity when we'd done the pilot, and I just sort of drawn the first things that came off of my head, and somebody asked us about like, is there a way we can get some color? And it was like, oh, well, we could easily make it's like, okay, in that case, we'll make Zach black, and it made him I thought a more interesting character. Let's do it. And we made Amanda Latin, and got Chrissy Fit to do it, and I think it's a good thing to remind people about, because you tend to sort of draw what you've always been drawing
Right.
in animation, and you ended drawing a bunch of. It's easier to make funny-looking guys than girls. It's easy, it's easier to just sort of just draw the characters very homogenous. And I think it's good to remind people that not to do that.
Right.
And we were like really happy, and then it made it added a lot of color to the show, not just color, but Mackay's voice, which we would probably not have had him if it had been a white character. His voice has so much texture and played so well against the other two voices. I was thrilled with his performance all the way through.
Yeah, he's really good. Is there a reason there's a lead character, Redhead, in both shows? I think that's awesome, so I wanted to ask about it.
I'll tell you, Melissa in Milo is based on my daughter Melissa, and it looks like her. And,
That's cool.
And when originally Candace was just sort of like my sister, and we decided to make her redhead because she'd be sort of fiery and that way. But my sister was a blonde. My oldest daughter, Isabella, who Isabella from Phineas and Ferb is named
Yes.
after, is a blonde with blue eyes. Doesn't look like her at all because she was not even born. We knew we were having a girl, and her name was going to be Isabella, so I created this character and named it Isabella, but it's actually drawn to look like my niece Amanda, because that was the little the little toddler that we knew, and when I was doing Milo, I had all the character designs out on my table at home, and I went to bed and I came up the next morning, and Isabella had put a Post-it on the thing and said, "You can't put Melissa in this show and not me. That's not fair." And I went in and I said, "Issa, there's a big hit show with a character based on you, right?" And she said, "Yes, but that doesn't look like me." and that looks like Melissa. And I was like, oh, I can't win for losing. I was just trying to make it even because she had a character based on her. I was going to do a character based on Melissa, but I couldn't, it's like there's no getting around the sibling rivalry.
So one of your girls is blonde and one has red hair?
Yes.
That's really cool.
Yes, they both have bright blue eyes.
That's
Neither
cool.
me nor my wife have blue eyes.
It's a recessive gene.
It's a recessive gene, but we tried to figure out the odds of us having two girls that have blue eyes is like 16 to 1. It's
Yeah,
like
that's
4 to
pretty low.
1 if it's just one, but it becomes exponential to try
Yes.
to get two of them.
That's
Django's
crazy.
got blue eyes and we don't, but my mom does and Bear's mom does.
Yeah, like
So
my dad
all
and
of you,
Clarissa's
both of you have
grandfather.
kids with blue eyes.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yes. Yeah.
That's really cool. So I read online that you guys worked on Rocco's Modern Life together and you were paired up, and I'm not going to name names because one of you was neat and one of you was messy. Is this true?
Well,
Artistically.
Well, here's the thing. No one has ever called me neat. But at the time, now Swampy has become much more clean and
Yes.
he
I
was
much more swampy back then.
Swampy was more of an adjective describing him back then.
Oh my God.
There was somebody said once that they would come into our office and there was sort of like it just sort of felt like a locker room in there because he would come in a biker suit because he would ride his
motorcycle suit.
There was all,
don't wash
like in the middle of summer, he wouldn't wash it. He would put it like this. I didn't care. It all just sort of smelled the same to me after a while anyway. But people said it smelled like a locker room.
Helmets, gloves, boots, and a big leather suit.
So next to that, I'm very cluttered, but it's.
But if you look at our art styles
there was an
too,
aura.
my art style is very rough,
super messy.
and I get very messy, and I'll often even have
Take
to
like a
erase
big
stuff. And
4B
Dan-
pencil and just it'll beat
Yeah.
all over the place.
Dan can take a Sharpie and just draw.
Well,
And
yeah.
it comes out perfect.
Yes, exactly.
Um,
Yeah, I didn't do a pencil.
So I always said I think that one of the reasons they put us together is they thought maybe that we would meet somewhere in the middle.
That's funny. Well, you released who was the messy one, not me.
Oh yeah.
I just want you to know. Did you guys come up with Phineas and Ferb that far back? And was it at Macaroni Grill?
It wasn't Macaroni Grill, but it was like Macaroni Grill. It was a
Okay.
place called Wild Time that no longer exists in Pasadena, and they would give you butcher paper,
Yes.
and a can of crayons, and I drew him there. And Swampy and I were writing together on Rocco, but we wanted to create something that we could do together, so that we wouldn't have to stop writing together because we were having such a good time. And I took that drawing, tore it out, took it home. It's there's a picture of it on the internet somewhere. And that night I drew Perry, Ferb, and Doofenschmirtz. And I brought him in the next day and said, "What about these guys?" And he was like, "Ooh, I like that." We came up with the whole idea for the show and the whole concept of the show, how it all worked, like probably in a week or less. That week, and that was like 1993. So
Wow.
it was when we were working on Rocco.
Wow. So I did want to ask you, what has it been like working with your own production company separately too?
Well, for one thing, the commute's great. It's an 8-minute walk, which has been terrific. And I had my office in an Airstream in the front of the building, which was really kind of cool.
His office is the only one with air conditioning in that Airstream.
No, that's changed.
Has
We have
it?
upgraded. Everybody else has air conditioning now.
Okay.
And that wasn't even actually installed
I gave
for
him
me.
a bunch of crap about that last time I was there. I was like, "You're making everybody else sit in the swelter and heat out here, and you've got like an air conditioning."
But it's nice. We're down by the beach, and it's a very cool group. And there's a lot of place to walk. We're right off of Abbot Kinney, and we're having a good time writing a lot of music, doing Pete the Cat, which is just a very warm, sweet, kind of wonderful show.
So Pete the Cat is for a younger audience. I do want to ask if that was inspired by your grandchildren at all.
Well, one of the things that when I first asked about, because I was asked if I wanted to get involved with the show, and I didn't really know Pete the Cat, because my son was already older than that by
Right.
the time it came to my attention. So when I turned to my grandkids and said, "Hey, I'm being asked about this show, Pete the Cat," oh, it was clear that if I didn't do it, I would have been in a lot of trouble. My youngest,
funny.
Chloe, was like, "Oh,
you have to.
That's
You have
awesome.
to." And I was like, okay, I'll do it.
Yeah, my youngest was really excited. She was like, Swampy's doing Pete the Cat? That's awesome.
That's really cool.
She was a big fan too.
So how do you guys solve creative differences?
Knife fight.
Arm wrestle.
Interesting. Very different answers. One more Disney than the other.
Well,
You know-
a creative difference is always sort of solved by who's more passionate. Whoever believes it the most, or often who's loudest, which gives me the advantage a lot of the time. But we see very eye to eye on on all things Phineas. We pretty much very rarely disagreed on anything. It was always sort of the way we both saw it.
And one of the reasons I think we've always really enjoyed working together is we can have, and it really is rare when we have different views on things, we can have a really passionate discussion, but it's never personal.
Right.
We can be in the middle of having an argument about a character and literally do that. Oh, it's lunchtime. Let's go grab some food.
That's
And we can
great.
pick
That's
aside
The
awesome.
coyote and the sheepdog in
Yeah.
the old Warner Brothers.
because it's not about
Yeah.
any personal stuff.
Right.
We're really aware that it's about making the work better and making it funnier or sticking to the character and what that is.
As
We have to be aware sometimes because we'll get heated and people around us are like, "Oh wow, this is quite." And we're like, "No, it's cool. It's just about we're fine. Don't."
Do they believe you though?
I think so. Well, people who've been with us a long time do. They get it.
You got to have the discussion in your character voices.
Sometimes it's like, are you kidding? That's not the way we're gonna do it. Actually, we're actually work sort of like most of the time. It's sort of like improv, where you don't say no, you say yes and
That's awesome.
and you just build on each other. And I think that's why we're really good at as a writing team, because we say, oh, that's a good idea. We could also do this, or maybe instead of that, I think this is a better way to get there. Instead of saying, that sucks.
That's really cool. That's
we'll
cool to
still
use
say
the
that
improv
occasionally.
stuff. Yeah. Is it cool having The Simpsons in the same realm of being involved with Disney as Phineas and Ferb now?
It's a little weird.
It is.
I'll be honest with you. It's always felt like two different worlds. So and I think they're still gonna exist in a kind of side by side way. But when somebody first said they're all going to be part of the same family, I was like, don't know if that's going to work. I'm sure I like that.
That's
Sort of a
funny.
weird full circle for us because we met working on The Simpsons.
Right.
We were next door neighbors on The Simpsons.
That's awesome. It's crazy that you guys have worked together for that long and barely ever argue.
Yeah,
It is
well,
weird.
there was a long time where we weren't working together.
Which is very sad.
It was like 13 years or something where we
Dark
were not even in
ages.
the same studio.
Dark ages.
It was the dark ages. It was the dark time. The Empire.
Who's more likely to come up with the worst evil invention, Stewie or Dr. Doofenschmirtz?
Ooh, I think Stewie's evil inventions are a little more practical usually. I think Doofenschmirtz tends to just come up with an idea before he figures out the actual evil application to it. You know, just like from the very beginning, he was like, I'm going to wrap the entire eastern seaboard in tinfoil and then reverse the rotation of the earth. Like, I don't know quite how that benefits me yet. I haven't figured that part out.
Stewie's stuff always feels more targeted to do some serious damage.
Yeah. That makes sense. Probably because it's for adult audiences, so it's allowed.
Exactly.
Which would you rather have, a time travelinator or another dimensionator? That is hard to say.
Ooh, I think a time travelinator would allow me to go back and reverse a lot of really bad decisions I have made.
That's awesome. So, do you guys have any last-minute announcements for the interview?
Well, Phineas and Ferb is going to be available on...
All of Phineas and Ferb will be available. All the seasons will be available November 12th on Disney Plus.
And my brother and I will be rewatching all of it.
Excellent. The entire oeuvre of Phineas and Ferb will be there. And then next year,
3 days of watching.
and then next year in 2020, we'll have a brand new Phineas and Ferb movie on Disney Plus. So pick up Disney Plus is, I think, the main bullet point of this presentation.
Yeah, that sounds important at this point. Okay, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate
Nice
it.
seeing you.
You too.
If you guys don't know what to do today, then you should watch Piper's Picks.
If you were really smart, you would watch Piper's Picks TV.
watch Piper's Picks TV. Now, do it.